Hi, this is Bill Hitchcock, and it is Friday, March 20th, 2020, when I'm recording this. What we're working on today is our match index sheet. And what I want to be able to set up is assume that we've got, maybe hundreds of records here. I've only got 8 of them, so it's not that big of a deal to find them. But if you had a lot of records, you might want to be able to search for some of these things and find out which record number it happens to be, and then pull up some of the information from it. And I realize that you can use a VLOOKUP table to do this, but there's a couple other functions that we want to try to test out and see how that works. So before I get setting up those functions, I'm going to do a little bit of formatting here. I want to take my order numbers and use a comma format on those. So I'll go up here to Home and choose my comma format and decrease the decimals, so I've got that taken care of. I could take the hire date and use a custom date format on that. So I'm going to right click on the selected cells, choose Format Cells, go to Custom, and then in this box here where I can choose what date format I want, I can type in 3 Ds to get the day of the week, a space, 3 M's to get the abbreviation for the month, 2 more D's for the day, and a comma, and 4 Y's for the year. And we'll hit OK on that. And I've got my dates formatted, so that way at least I can tell what day of the week each of these were. Some of the information looks a little bit odd. It's kind of doubtful that we would hire somebody on a Sunday, and that's why often you'll do that, is just to check and find out, is that true? Is it false? If it's not likely to be true, then maybe you'd have to do some digging up to find out what day it was that this person actually was hired. Then finally over here for the salaries, I'm going to highlight those cells. And again, it doesn't hurt if I go down a little bit further. We'll do a $ format, get rid of the decimal places, since really we're concerned about the dollar part of it. So, that's what we've got so far. Let's save our work. And then what I want to do is set up some functions to be able to look for a particular agent. So in this case, I want to look for Errol. So what I can do is try a couple of different functions here. The first one is the match function. So I type in equals match. There we go. And a parenthesis. And the parameters on it, or the arguments on it, are the lookup value, the lookup array, and the match type. So my lookup value, I'm going to point to that. So I'm just taking my arrow key, point over to cell A2. I'm going to look up that name, type in a comma. My lookup array, or a list, is another word for an array, is all of these items that I have under my agents. And if you include the blank row at the end, that's just so we can insert some additional names above row 13. So that'll be fine. Then the match type, you'll notice that's in square brackets, which means it's optional. But I want to take a look at those options. So I'll type in a comma. And if I don't put anything in, it assumes less than. If I put in 0, it'll give me an exact match. Or I can try a -1, which gives me something that's greater than. That would work well if you're looking for, say, like a number, and you want to find all the numbers that are, or the next number in a list that's greater than a certain value. So I'm going to use 0 because I want the agent's name to exactly match one on the list. Type in a parenthesis, hit enter, and it tells us that it's in row number 5 of our list. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was our order number. There's Errol, there's our match. So the next function I can use is, now that I've got that row number, I can use an index function to pull up the hire date, because I want to grab this date and this salary for our agent. So we'll type in the following: equals index, parenthesis, and there's a couple different versions of it. We're going to use the first one where you choose the array, the row number, and then the column number if you want it. So that way you could look up a kind of a two-dimensional table that's got multiple columns, for example. So my array is going to be my dates. Type in a comma. The row number is this row number that I typed in here. And I'm going to use function F4 on that, so I always reference that particular row number. Now in here, what you could do is you could nest the function. You could nest the match function in here to return the row number that way. I don't need a column number, so I'm just going to put in my parenthesis, hit enter, and I've got the hire date, Sunday, April 15th. So let's use our format painter here and format paint that number. And we've got that working the same. All right, now I'm going to copy that formula over for the salary. And for the salary, I want to use my format painter here and format paint my salary. And there, I didn't have to adjust anything because when I copied this over, the index is giving me D5 to D13, which is my list of salaries. The B2 remains the same because I put that $ in front of the B, and we've got that information. So let's try testing it out, see if it works. Let's try typing in Harper. And I should get the 8th record. And indeed I do. Saturday, October 12th, 2013, and $40,000. So, a couple other things that you might consider doing when you're working on a worksheet like this. It wouldn't hurt if we did some conditional formatting. So I'm going to set up a new rule here. And I want to format only cells that contain the one that's equal to this agent name that I have in cell A2. I'll format it. And for the fill color, we'll just use yellow for highlighting it. For the font, why don't we boldface that, or perhaps even bold italic so it sticks out. Hit OK. Hit OK. So that's the cell that I'm looking for. I'm going to use my format painter now that I have the conditional formatting set up, and we'll highlight all of these cells down here. And Harper now appears down at the bottom. So again, we want to test this out. We'll search for Danny. And the custom formatting changes. We've got row number 4. We've got our hire date. We can check that, and the salary as well. And I suppose you could, if you really wanted to, you could use custom formatting on it. The only reason why I probably wouldn't do it for the hire date and salary is if you have multiple people with the same salary. You know, it kind of depends on if you want to show it that way or not. You know, perhaps it wouldn't be all that bad. We could find out who all is hired on the same date as Danny, for example, or who has the same salary as Danny, and then do some quick comparisons there to see what we can try. So that's a few things you could do on this one. And then next, what we'll be doing is some work with database functions, so we'll try that one out next. Let me save this and try ending my recording.